Hi all, I've gone over that recent 5-minute game with an engine. Here's a spin-off video, and I'm just wondering if the idea of looking for the weakness of the last move is very, very useful in calculations, and maybe should be a mandatory idea if we're going to calculate stuff, to always check for the weakness of the last move. Because in this game it was a very, very convincing octopus knight here for the whole game. And the knight's, got all of these squares. So whenever that knight moves, it's important maybe to check the weakness of the last move, as an example. And okay, if the bishop moved like there, the weakness of the last move would be like g5. I could play queen g5. But if we imagine, okay, if the queen moves, I mean, it's on c3. If it moves to b6, okay, it's not guarding some squares, so maybe bishop c4 would be available if that huge octopus knight wasn't there. But in calculations here, I checked the video after, and I was convinced from London Classic it was like depth searching, maybe looking a bit deeper, but actually I think breadth as well is equally as important to find resources, which could just be immediately there, just after one or two moves in the position. And the thing is, if this pawn move, which it can't, then d5 would be weak. So there's various weaknesses of the last move to explore here. If the bishop move, maybe e6 would be a bit weaker. But in calculations, I had ruled out queen h7, calculating knight f7. Okay, so this is the interesting thing, and I'm not sure how many of you would say this, and I'm just going to question, is it actually, are we doing ourselves a disservice by not employing the concept of questioning, even in calculation, what the weakness of the last move is? You saw various weaknesses if they did in theory move. So in calculations I had said queen h7 check, knight f7. Queen h7 doesn't really carry a weakness of the last move, because I'm trying to actually do something useful, and I sort of ended it there because the bishop's not being won, it seems. And also it seems the strength of that last move is to protect against h6, so it rules out queen h6. But if we look more carefully, and if we maybe, I mean, this is just a theory, that these resources are not magically appearing, they're logically appearing. That queen h7, knight f7, if that did go to f7, the weakness of the last move, the knight would no longer be the octopus knight. And in fact, there's one key square which it wouldn't be occupying. I wonder if you can guess it, which one? Which would be useful for the queen after. Of course, engines they seal this in like a millionth of a second, because they're seeing millions of positions a second. So tactics like this, you could have given it to a computer back in 1970 and probably seen it in about like less than a second as well. But it seems that queen h7, knight f7, that knight no longer there. If we examine the weakness of the last move, it's no longer hitting these squares, but it's this one which has now become available. It wasn't before in this position. So in a way, the queen check has not only undermined control of g6, the knight's also pinned, and there's actually a killer move here, which I wonder if you can spot now that I've highlighted the weakness of the last move. That's all I've really done, is highlight the weakness of the last move. So there's a killer move here. If I give you 10 seconds starting from now, you might want to stop the video. But I just wonder if we said to ourselves queen h7 check, okay, there's no weakness of the last move to check, but in the opponent's moves, knight f7, creating some weakness of the last move in that certain squares are not protected, covered by that monster knight, like g6. So it seems apparent actually that now queen g6 is crushing. If the bishop moves, its rook takes f7, and it's just winning a piece. If we look at this from an engine point of view, there's no defense, it seems. to losing a piece. And it seems logical. White did seem to have a tempting position, you know, a very interesting position here. So that's just interesting. I thought I'd just share that thought with you, that in our calculations, is it worth checking for the weakness of the last moves? Because I really just completely missed this subtle little queen maneuver. It's absolutely crushing. Just to check, forcing knight f7 and a weakness of the last move, that it's no longer protecting g6. Queen g6. You know, black is not in the right state to defend the f-file here, clearly. Comments or questions on YouTube? Thanks very much.